Women inclusion in politics is one thing that Nigerian citizens need to harp on and consistently push for till a level playing field is created for the female gender to thrive in a male-dominated political system. With most candidates from political parties declaring to run for president predominantly male, one woman who isn't fazed by going up against the political bigwigs in the country and has declared her intention to run for the office of the president is Khadijah Okunnu-Lamidi. She declared under the Social Democratic Party, SDP, saying it is a party that aligns with her vision for Nigeria and that she believes that she would run the good race to victory. She has also promised that an Okunnu-Lamidi-led government will advocate for 50% inclusion rate for women in politics and governance, among other changes her government would implement. Joining us on the show this morning as we discuss her presidential bid and her plans for Nigeria if she emerges victorious is Khadijah Okunnu-Lamidi. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, good morning, Khadijah. Good to see you again.
Thank you, Mr.
So, well, I think the logical question to ask is how market? Other presidential aspirants, they've been going around, they've been doing consultations. I've not been seeing you on that consultation circuit. You know, that's one. And so, what have you been doing? And secondly, I didn't see you at the iftar dinner to which the First Lady of Nigeria, Aisha Buhari, invited presidential aspirants. Did you get an invitation, considering the fact that the First Lady was very strong about, you know, women representation in a special, you know, First Ladyship presidential address to the aspirants?
Okay. Thank you again for having me, and good morning, Nigerians. Well, okay, one of the first questions you asked, you know, our campaign is basically because we are a young demographic. I'm representing my two main constituencies are the young people, the millennials, and the female votes. Now, we generally go about things a bit different. So our campaign structure is more virtual, and that allows us, because the youth generally are the most, I would say the most connected, the most educated, and the most informed in history, we're able to, rather than use the regular brick and mortar method, we're able to be faster, go faster using virtual methods and get through our campaign a bit easier. However, we also have to use an unorthodox method, which allows us to, rather than bring power back to the people. In short, we are ensuring that our campaign is not, would I say, you know, we keep going through the same power brokers, which are, you know, they do exist. However, we do have people in the younger generation that are power brokers as well, but they have just not been included into the political space. They have been disillusioned for so long, and my candidacy kind of arouses many people's interest and many people's pathway back into the political scene. The fact that we're disillusioned doesn't mean that we've lost interest in politics. So that's one. And then with Madam Aisha Buhari, I think she did have a good cause for calling for inclusion in the political space. However, I don't think I received that invitation.
Oh, you were kept out of it?
I don't think I received the invitation.
You missed out on the pepper soup and the jollof rice.
I guess they discussed important issues, which is what is important. The fact that women should have a voice. So that was good.
Well, I do hope that kind of oversight is corrected next time. That's appalling, quite frankly. Yeah. But now let's talk about the two demographics that you said you represent, the youth and women. Women historically have been really active in politics right up until election day, when women do tend to come out and vote for their preferred candidate. The same cannot be said of the youth. That, you know, virtual engagement tends to culminate on election day when they just decide they're too disaffected to actually turn up and actually, you know, put their, you know, finger where it matters. What are you doing specifically to galvanize that constituency and ensure that they actually turn out in their numbers to support you?
Well, you know, it's quite unfortunate, but I think we are getting there. The fact that we're speaking about it, there's mass mobilization, there's education on it, is quite important. And I think the youth have, because of the era that we're living in, it's kind of, we're used to microwavable solutions, which are happening fast. Rather than, but we don't understand that the democratic process is quite streamlined and it's systematic. So it's that systematic way that kind of makes people, not get interested so much. But we're on a PVC drive, and I'm also definitely, alongside my campaign, is the PVC drive. We're going out, we're meeting people, not just because of my candidacy, but because they need to get informed on getting involved in the process. And getting involved in process, having your PVC is one, but also there are also ward-level solutions that you can create for candidates to even emerge in the ward level. It requires your presence. So if you adopt a party, like I'm in the Social Democratic Party, some of the candidates that emerge are emerging from maybe a set of 5 people in the ward. Some wards have 5 people, some have 10, and some of them are most likely bus drivers, and they're the ones who determine who is emerging. But if the youth, just like if you have a straight line, if the middle is not moving, the grassroots cannot move. So we sometimes blame the grassroots and say, oh, they collect 1,000, 500. But the middle class, like you just mentioned, are not pulling their weight. So what we need to do is ensure that they move so that your grassroots can only be as good as your middle class. So we get involved in ward level. Start, your little 10 people join a ward, you change who comes up. And then, even if you do not have your voter's card, you can rest assured that, the best of the crop have emerged.
All right, so let's talk about preparedness. There was an interview that came up recently where somebody dared to you said, you're not prepared for this. How well are you prepared for this, number one? 2, how well are you prepared to face the economic challenges Nigeria has? Number 1, Nigeria has got a high debt level. The debt is on the increase. What would you do about high debt level?
Okay.
2, what would you do about subsidy? Would you pull out subsidy?
Okay. I'm going to have to look at some of my notes because I don't want to be misquoted on some of the figures I want to read out. Now, our biggest debt.
Who's going to misquote you? We're on live television.
Yes.
Whatever you say, everybody will hear.
Yes. So
okay.
Our biggest. The debt we have now is basically from India, Japan, Germany, and France. And I remember that during
China there?
And China, yes, China and France. So I remember during the Obasanjo era, Dr. Okonjo actually helped us get to where we were able to clear our debt. And her reasons for doing that were because if you consider Nigeria as a poor country, we're able to renegotiate. We need to renegotiate Paris Club agreements. All these things need to be renegotiated because ordinarily the procurement processes, if a country is going to lend you money or loan you money, they have to ensure that these processes are streamlined and they are transparent. If they're not doing their due diligence, then we're both culpable. So these are some of the ways that, and these have a knock-on effect on all the other areas of the economy. Then also we're going to, in terms of, we also have to look at security. So security is, and unemployment is a way of dealing with national security. And I wanted to put in there somewhere that, we do need to deploy, I think they're called aerostats, which is a military.
No, I'm talking about the debt.
Yes,
debt.
I've already. I thought
Okay, so you're just going to renegotiate. That's your
we have to
policy.
Renegotiate. We
so
have
you just
to
renegotiate, and so after you renegotiate, then how do you pay the stock on ground?
Right now we're using about 98% of our expenditure. What we need to concentrate on is growing revenue. That is already.
How would you do that?
They're different. You have to have security. You have to have employment. You have to move away from. You have to have some kind of aggressive policy on agriculture. Some kind of aggressive policy on all the other aspects of the economy that move you away from just the regular debts portfolio. And once you're able to move from that, then that can, you renegotiate, you get your debt level low, then you can use your expenditure, your revenue for education, for health, for these things that have a knock-on effect, that have a ripple effect that is valuable and scalable and sustainable, rather than this recurrent expenditure that we keep spending on. So if
how do you take care of the debts?
Well, we have to renegotiate. And when I'm talking about renegotiating, I'm really talking about cancellation.
So you go to the West and ask them for debt cancellation,
No.
when most of your debts now are local debts?
Well, debt cancellation, when we have to present ourselves. We have to present our case the best way possible. We have to have the best legal minds to come and look at our contracts. The contracts were already signed, I'm sure, under circumstances that are not transparent.
Khadijah, don't worry yourself. Let's go back to the basics. Let's talk about your platform. At this point, you are an aspirant, right? On the platform of the Social Democratic Party. Before we get to the bigger details, how secure is this platform, the Social Democratic Party platform? What we hear, what we have read, is that you are just there, holding the space for some other people who are looking at the Social Democratic Party as an alternative platform. If they do not succeed, with APC or PDP, then they will move into the Social Democratic Party and take it over. Don't forget that this SDP has a special historical significance. This was the platform that Basharun MKO Abiola, that was the platform on which he won the 1993 presidential election. And we understand that some people are targeting that platform and the symbol and the slogan of the party. And you are just a stopgap, and they say that's illustrated by the fact that you are the only person who is the aspirant. Where are the other aspirants? So are you aware of this concern that you are just holding the space so that some other people can take it over?
Okay, first, I want to remind you that when we declared, I will use we because it's not a sole mandate, it's a mandate plural voices. When we declared as an independent, and that was because we needed to get our message out clear. It needed to be clear, it needed to be unadulterated, and it needed to get to all the disenfranchised Nigerians. Now, because of the fact that you can't run an independent candidate, I hope that is passed soon enough, we had to shop around. So we actually had conversations with, I'll say, 70% of the parties out there. And we needed to be sure that their constitution is actually in practice. It's not just written down in paper. So we spoke with most of them. We spoke with their working committees and things. And we needed to get to a party that aligned with our ideology as best as possible. So the Social Democratic Party is center-left. It's a party we know that we need, where the country is now, we need a lot of social welfare going on. And it does have a mix of, the capitalism ideology, which will be a good balance. Also, it's a party that, from what the engagements we've had, it's had its little breaks in terms of disruptions. However, it's also the party that we had the last truncated democracy ever in Nigeria. And it was, if we're going to pick that up, I believe that's the party that will do the job, will do justice to that. We had, and then, as the party of the White Horse, as I like to call it, is quite significant because from what we see now, it's not for sale. And that's very important. All the other parties have capped their prices and exorbitant prices. That's a high entry barrier for regular, well-meaning Nigerian men and women. For the women, the Social Democratic Party gives you the form for free. So that's a great entry access. You pay for your one thing, but the form is free. So that it's encouraging as well. Now, anybody trying to move in to disrupt, the party has decided to run their primaries beforehand. It's no longer going to play second fiddle to other parties or people running to look for where to fit in. If you're not with the party from the beginning, then don't bother, is what they're saying. So the primaries are going to be held early. And
when?
It's going to be held on the 14th of May, by God willing. So that's the plan for the party, and it's a party that it's encouraging social justice. It's encouraging a neutral platform for people to always come in and have your voice heard. And so that's the reason we chose the party. And growing up, I did know the party.
What are your main challenges, and how much did you pay to get onto the platform?
What do you mean? How much did I pay for my form? Is what you mean?
Not form, to even get onto that platform. Because you said you were shopping around.
Yes.
For a platform. It's
not monetary, it's ideological shopping around.
Okay, so who are your main challengers within the party?
Well, they have 4 aspirants on the party.
Who and
who? There's a lady and there's two men that are fellow aspirants. So we're going to go to the primaries and we're going to test our will. The will of the party, and if you can't win a primaries, then you're not ready for a general election anyway.
Right, I want to interrogate that we. Who are you referring to? Because in our current situation here in Nigeria, there's often some kind of political Svengali pulling the strings behind the scenes. Is that what you're referring to? Who is we?
When I say we, I mentioned it earlier. We is...
Yeah, we need details.
Yes, I believe I'm carrying the mandate of the people, the voice of the people. It is in trust. It is. I'm not here for myself. I'm here to help further that conversation, further the voice. So when I speak and when I'm making decisions, I don't make them. I make them after consultations with fellow, what I call them, progressive minds that help with strategy, that actually selfless Nigerians that enable me to sit in front of you just today. But I know what you're talking about. It's, as you know, godfatherism in Nigeria has come to an end. So
you're referring to your team, just to clarify.
Yes.
Right.
Let's talk about subsidy. What would you do about subsidy? It's a big problem. 4 trillion, hemorrhaging out of our yearly budgets. We can't sustain this. Would you pull our subsidy on day one? And how would you spread out the cost that comes of pulling out subsidy? How would you tackle inflation that comes out?
That subsidy issue is, the two sides of it. It's quite a topic that needs to. I think we need to. Subsidies, it's unsustainable. That's the truth. However, we need to do it in the right way, in the right form, where Nigerians are. You put Nigerians in the forefront of your decision. You don't. We have to find a way to gradually ease it out. And we have to, because monies need to be put into the things that will bring in ROI, and that's where we're going to. What
are those things that are bringing ROI? The monies will be put into?
Education, long-term. Okay. Healthcare, long-term. Security, long-term. I mean, there's no reason why we should still be manning, look at the Kaduna-Abuja rail, and I commiserate with everyone that is still out there that we haven't found solutions to that issue. But we shouldn't have to be manning that. Young Nigerians are looking at it like, are we still here? We could use technology to solve these problems, but I wouldn't say that it's unfortunate that our political leaders now and our institutions have been unsuccessful in managing this terrain. It's almost like they don't understand, and you can't give what you don't know. If you're not adding, you're subtracting. If you're not really able to lead the generation where we're going, which is the generation now is led by machine learning. You have AI, you have renewable energy, you have fintechs. If leaders do not understand this terrain, there's no way they can lead the modern world and the modern economy coming forward. So it's only going to do us good if they step aside, because this terrain, this domain is led entirely by the millennial youth. So there's no point in us trying to find our way in the dark. They owe us that responsibility.
Well, as we begin to wrap up, instead of this general talk, you have proposed a 5-point agenda. Can you take us through those 5 points as briefly as you can and give us the highlights so that we'll know what your vision is? Okay,
so I'll say the overall vision is national development and security. That's the overall vision, and the economy. Now we put that into 5 points, like you mentioned. The first is infrastructure, to make sure that infrastructure is not happening in silos. So if you're going to, you have to make sure that you bring in development that is scalable, sustainable and scalable, not in silos in different, far and few between, because it defeats the purpose of borrowing so much money to put infrastructure that is not going to start generating ROI faster. So that's industrialization. We have to industrialize agriculture. We have to industrialize. There's so much that you can do with transportation and industrialization. Then the next is education and innovation. Like I mentioned earlier, technology is how we have to use. We have to go leapfrog ahead years in education. We can't continue using the slate and paper and chalk. We can't continue using that. We have to find a way that children here are learning the same things as their counterparts in America, and it's only technology that can do that. The third is women inclusion. As a woman, I mean, this comes naturally. It's not just being a woman here. It's being a competent and capable option who also understands the needs of women and would be able to, help women across all cultural lines in Nigeria. And then we have welfare and infrastructure, which is a basic, what I call it, the basic function of government. It's actually the primary function. And we've moved from that to revenue generation, which has thrown us off. So welfare and is quite important. And then the final one is law and security. We merge those two together as well because they need to checkmate each other. It's a situation where the judiciary and the law enforcement agents need to work together. And as a woman, we are more likely to be able to work, through bilateral lines. We're more likely to be able to work, bipartisan, rather than, the more autocratic way. So we put them together so that we can get, progress in that area as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Khadijah. Some people are sending questions here that why do you want to be president? Why don't you start as a commissioner or as a member of the State House of Assembly? But I consider that as hate speech.
Yes. But we're at a time where we're renegotiating our commitment to Nigeria. It's very important that we get involved. It's not about being a career politician. It's not about, starting from somewhere. We all have to get involved and renegotiate this thing. There's a transition going on, and we might as well get in now.
No, and it's good to want to start from the top.
And your commitment is admirable.
Yes, yes. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.